Hey everyone, welcome. We're so excited to be starting another event tonight. So glad to have you here. I know that a lot of you have already logged in, so thank you so much for joining us and welcome. I see people from all over the United States right now. Hi Terry from Minnesota, great to have you here. And California, Jessica is getting going and has joined us. It's great to see so many familiar names and new names as well. We have the UK represented, that's fantastic. So we are going to just take a couple of minutes to make sure everybody has a chance to log in. We have a lot of folks registered tonight, so we're just going to give folks a moment. But if you're just coming in, please say hello and where you're from. We are sitting in Alcobaça, Portugal, Portugal the place. That's myself and Fiona, who is handling things off camera. And then our guests, Julia and Carol, are from Moviinn. And where are you both at right now?
I'm in Lisbon.
I'm in Lisbon as well.
Okay, so you guys are
Lisbon.
Sweltering, right? Hot Lisbon today?
Really hot today, yes.
Finally.
Yeah, I love the opinion. One is like finally, the other's like it's really hot today.
No, it's finally. I would say finally as well. The winter was too long this year.
Yeah, it took a long time for summer to get here,
Yeah.
but based on tomorrow's predictions, I think summer has landed. So it is definitely here. So for those of you that are logging in right now, we're just going to take a couple of minutes to give everybody a chance to get signed in and settled in. I've got Wisconsin here. Hey, from Oregon, that's my home state, so good to see you. And we've got Deborah here from California. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, we're going to really dig into the process side of moving abroad and moving to Portugal, the paperwork, the legality, what it takes to get yourself in order and get organized. So we're excited for all your questions. Please feel free to type your questions in the chat and then we will share them up and get as many of them answered as possible. So we're really looking forward to diving into this. Also, just a little bit of a note, it's really important to know that we can't give individual personalized legal advice here on a webinar of this type. We are going to go over a lot of information that we hope will find really useful, but if you have a specific question, you can reach out to schedule a call with us or we can assist connecting you with Moviinn. But tonight we're going to be focused on, getting you to be connected with what you need to be prepared for a move to Portugal. So if you've got those questions ready, feel free to type those into the chat and we'll share out as many of those and dig into those. It is top of the hour. It is just after 6 o'clock. So we will welcome everyone officially. So again, hello, my name is Colleen and I'm the owner and co-founder of Portugal the Place. I am so excited to be here tonight to have guests, to have the team from Moviinn that we depend on as our partners for all things related to the visas and the legal process of relocating to Portugal. So with us tonight, we have Julia and Carol. They are specialists in what we do and what we do every day, which is helping folks have a soft and smooth landing when they're looking at coming to Portugal. So I'm here on the Silver Coast in Alcobaça, and we have our guests are in Lisbon, and we are ready to go. So when you all are ready to start getting your questions in there, we're excited to assist and to help. So I think, Caroline, how long? I believe we've been working with you guys for a couple of years now, correct? I believe we started a couple of years ago.
Almost 2 years and a half.
Yeah, has it been that long? So we've been really pleased with the ability to have a team that communicates so strongly with us and that we're able to all work together. So I believe that we have our first questions coming up. Hey, Shelly. So is there a website or hub that provides listings for rentals that match visa requirements? Oh, that sounds lovely, Shelly, but no, there is not. That's where we come in. That's where Portugal the Place helps because we vet those properties to make sure that they match the lease requirements for the visa. But there is no one place. And even the most popular sites that we're all aware of, like Idealista and Supercasa, has a mashup of some things that are really qualified, other things that don't work. So it's definitely important to understand that not everything that you see is going to turn out to be a qualifying lease. Let's see. Is proof of funds needed for the D8 visa? Carol, I'm going to toss that one to you.
For the D8 visa, legally, The funds like savings is not required. What is required is for you to have the amount that your income is for minimum wages in Portugal. This year, the minimum wage in Portugal is 870 euros. But every time that you're submitting a visa process, it's a process. So you may have to make sure that everything makes sense and that it's strong enough for the consulate to analyze it and say that you're a good fit to come to Portugal. So it means that if you have savings and you're applying for a D8 visa, it's also good to put that on your application and having a bank account in Portugal already. But it's not a mandatory requirement, but it's always good to have some.
And could you repeat again, just to make sure everyone hears, what is the minimum requirement in the Portuguese bank account for the D8 visa?
For the D8, in the bank account, there is no minimum requirement. But we always say that if you have at least a year of minimum wage on a Portuguese bank account, it's the best scenario possible.
And then you need to have that.
That plus the income.
Yes.
When it's a D8, because it's a digital nomad visa. So the main application that you're doing, the main document that you're showing is that you have a job abroad, that it's not in Portugal, it's not based in Portugal, and that you have a salary that it's at least for minimum wages, which is 870 euros per month.
Times
each
4.
minimum wage. Times 4.
Okay. And then if you have a spouse or dependents coming, then that number changes as well.
That number changes. For any kind of visa, you have the minimum requirement for the main applicant. The only one that it's for minimum wages is the digital nomad visa. But if you have a spouse, it's also, you have to prove half of a minimum wage more. And for each kid, 30% of a minimum wage more.
Perfect. Great. All right. So Jennifer is asking, how soon after applying your visa do you have to open your bank account? Actually, it's the other way around.
Ideally, you already have your bank account open when you're applying for your visa. The perfect visa application, you already have a NIF number, a bank account, and the other main documents.
Exactly. Great. Thank you. All right. And Cindy's asking, once we log into VFS, fill out the form, make payment, do we need to book appointment at that time, or can we go back in at a later date when more attractive times become available without having to fill out the initial form over and over again? Julia or either, who would like to take that one?
I can take that one. I do that all the time. But no, once you make when you go to the VFS, you're not making a visa application. What you're making is scheduling an appointment. So once you provide your information there and you make the payment, that is your timing. Otherwise, you will have to cancel. Sometimes the system, it's hard to reschedule. So I always advise when you're doing your appointment to already stick to that one.
Okay, perfect.
Because VFS system, it can be glitchy.
Yes. So Wendy's asking, with no IMA appointment with my visa, what will happen if I can't get an initial IMA appointment before the visa expires?
If you can't get the initial IMA appointment, you stay in Portugal. You're not required to leave the country because IMA right now has a backlog on staff. So they know that they are not being able to provide appointments to everyone. And if you can't get your appointment before your visa expires, you stay in Portuguese territory to then get your appointment. Everyone has the right to have the appointment, and at some point you will have it, but you're still legal in the country, even if your visa is expired. You have to be a bit more cautious if you need to leave the Portuguese territory, which is not advised.
Perfect. All right. And Christy, if I moved on the D7 visa, am I still able to work remotely? If so, is there any impact to my employer?
Any kind of residence permit holder in Portugal has the right to work. So if your visa was a D7 visa, you have passive income, you still are allowed to have other kinds of income. So you can have an active income abroad. You can have an active income in Portugal. It doesn't affect your residence permit or your visa. What you need to be sure when it comes to times of the renewal is that you still meet the requirement for the passive income, but it doesn't matter if you have other kinds of income. What you need to also be attentive in those kind of situations is the tax point of view of how you're going to pay for your taxes, because you have multiple sources of income. But in the migration point of view, if you keep your passive income, it doesn't matter if you have active income coming from other sources.
And is there an impact on their employer if it's an employer? I'm thinking the employment would be outside of Portugal, but what if a D7 person gets offered a position with a company in Portugal? Can they take that job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Work is one thing that it's nice to reiterate is that when you have the residency card, you are allowed to work. You don't need any different permission.
Right. Perfect. All right. And Tracy, this is a great question. What is VFS? Can we just, Julia, would you like to explain the
Yes, of course. VFS, yes. VFS is an entity that works directly with consulates, and which is a place where when a person wants to request a visa, right, needs to have an appointment, a direct in-person appointment there. So we do have, each country works differently. Okay, so there are countries where the visas have to be requested directly with the Portuguese consulates. In the United States, all the visas need to be requested with the VFS. So it's an entity which receives the documents and then send them forward to the Portuguese consulates, because it's the consulate who analyzes and approves the visa. Okay.
And just to add a little bit, Julia, I know you've had this experience as well, that there are consulates in the United States, depending on geography, that work with other contractors as well. VFS, for example, is San Francisco, Houston, Washington, D.C., but Newark is eVisa, which is another contractor. It feels confusing. So the best thing to do is to go to the Portuguese consulate site, look for your geographic area, and then follow the link to the contractor, because VFS is the primary one, but there's a couple extra ones in there.
Exactly.
Oh, and you're right on point. We've got a lot of acronyms we're tossing around. Ima, who wants to give us the full name of this one?
Carol, do you want to say in Portuguese? It's a Portuguese immigration authorities, we can say, right, in English.
But the full name, Carol, is?
It's the Authority for Immigration, Integration, and I'm thinking in Portuguese now.
Yes.
Let me do a quick translation.
It used to be said.
It's Agência para Imigração, Integração, Migração e Asilo. So it's for immigration, integration, and asylum.
Perfect. And just so you all know, if you think about the consulate in the beginning in the United States is your first touch with applying or getting access to moving to Portugal as a resident. And then your second touch point is when you're in Portugal and you're working with their immigration authority. So IMA is the official immigration authority in Portugal. The consulate is what you'll work with through their contractor when you're outside of Portugal.
Exactly.
All right. So the next question we have Joan is, we're married with communal financial accounts and want to retire and move to Portugal together. Would it be more advantageous to apply for two separate visas, D7 visas, or a D7 plus an accompanying spouse?
Usually when there's a family unit, what I advise is doing one main applicant and one accompanying visa. Why? Because then the visa is processed together. which means they have both of the documents of both applicants. Also, the visa will be issued at the same time. And when they can, they will schedule the appointment in Portugal also at the same time.
And this is just to clarify, an accompanying spouse, like an accompanying visa is not the same as later family reunification.
No, accompanying visa is when you go through the process at the consulate together. The family reunion is when one of the family members already is the holder of a residency card and they want to bring a family member to Portugal, or if the family member is here in Portugal without a residence permit and want to request it. The family reunion process, it has a great backlog, while the accompanying visa is the best option when you're coming together with a family.
All right. Thank you, Joan. That's a great question. All right, Paul, can you explain the difference between the D7 and the D8? Julia, do you want to?
Yes, of course. So both of those visas are the residency types visas. Both of them, at the moment of requesting one of them, you wish to become a resident in Portugal. It's not a tourist visa. None of them, both of them are the residency visas. And the difference between them is the requirement of the income that you need to provide as a proof. So a D7 visa, it's a visa based on a passive income that can be rentals, royalties, dividends, pensions. And a D8 visa, in other words, digital nomad visa, it's a visa based on an active income. So it's an active coming from employment contract. It can be owning a business out of Portugal. Okay, so this is the other thing that it's a difference between those visas is the amount required, financial amount. Yes.
Perfect. So, thank you. Tatiana is asking, if we obtain citizenship in Portugal, will we lose citizenship in our native country? I think we might need to know, Tatiana, what your country is, because different countries have different rules about dual citizenship. And Lauren, question on the ability to work when arriving on a D7 visa. We have the income to qualify for the D7. However, if we decided to work remotely for a US company or for an EU company, does both the D7 visa and the residential permit received after arrival allow for work if desired? So yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That is the process. Sherry, what are the student visa requirements? Is it hard to acquire? Juliet, do you or Caroline?
Okay.
Maybe Carol.
Sorry, sorry. My phone, Siri, thought it could answer.
Siri wants to answer.
Right?
Oh, my Siri also thought I was talking with her. Oh God, let's stop talking about it. D4 visa, student visa. If you want to live in Portugal, because there are temporary residency and the residency. So if you want to stay more than a year in Portugal, your program therefore has to be a program also valid for more than a year. So what you need is a school here in Portugal that will have a program that lasts more than a year and that it's registered in the Ministry of Education. After that, you have to start the visa process. You have to prove that you were selected you were enrolled, and you come to Portugal, and then the documents usually are the same ones for other kinds of visa. So criminal record, proof of address, things like that. Here in Portugal, you will have also to show that you're enrolled in this program and that you have paid your fees. So basically, this is the student visa process.
And is it just universities?
And requirements.
Is it just universities, or will trade programs work?
Not necessarily. It can be also higher education programs, college, and also sometimes some parents want their kids to come to do high school and other kinds of programs, it's also possible to get a student visa for that.
Okay, perfect. All right. So Dave is asking, I have Portuguese ancestry that is clear and verifiable. Does that qualify for residency? I'm guessing, Dave, that you don't carry a Portuguese passport, though. Maybe we can get some clarification on this question, and then we'll jump back to it. Joan is asking, for the D7 visa and plus the accompanying spouse, is the accompanying spouse getting a D7 visa or something lesser? Does the accompanying spouse have all the same rights, like the ability to work and paths, timelines to citizenship as the D7 visa holder?
Same rights if you come as a family member. It doesn't change anything.
It's a D7.
You will have the, with a D7 and an accompanying visa, both will receive a residence permit that will give you the same rights: work, access to the health system, and also, what was the other thing? Timeline to citizenship, because it counts as legal residency, and that's the important part for citizenship.
Yes. All right. So Gretchen is asking, can you qualify for a D7 with a large amount of savings and investments, but no specific passive income? Or must one make regular withdrawals from investments into a Portuguese bank account to demonstrate financial means? Julia, do you want to jump in on this?
Yes. A D7 visa cannot be based only on savings. Okay, so a person who wishes to apply for a D7 visa needs to provide a proof of regular income entering the bank account. Not a Portuguese bank account, but a bank account in their country of origin. Okay, and it happens many times that people, they do have investments and they do receive interest. It can be monthly, quarterly, or annual interest. As long as they can provide a proof of investment portfolio, which normally provides an amount that the person is going to receive, and the amount divided. Imagine that it's an annual amount, and it divided by 12. It's a minimum of 980 euros, because this is the minimum monthly amount needed for the main applicant who applies for a D7. Then it's fine to demonstrate as financial means for a D7 visa.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And let's see, we have another question here. So Joan is asking, for the D7 passive income, is it better to have the monthly required income levels come from one source, or is it okay to come from more than one? And is the proof of deposit supposed to be in a Portuguese bank or in my current bank?
So this is a very similar question, right? It has a little difference, but the proof of deposit needed for a D7 visa, it needs to be in the Portuguese bank account. A D7 visa, as we talked, Carol mentioned at the beginning of our webinar, that for a D8 visa, there is no legal requirement of having a bank account, right? It always makes an application stronger. But for a D7 visa, a bank account in a Portuguese bank is required. And the required amount needed for at the moment of a visa request, it's 980 euros, which is the minimum monthly amount, times 12. This is for the main applicant, right, Carol? It's 980 or 970, around
870. The minimum wage multiplied by 12, because it's the number of months of the year. So you have at least a year. If you have more family members, then you add also that amount that it's
you have additional
financial. Half of it for the spouse and 30% of it for each child.
So Joan's also asking about proof of deposits, and I think I want to clarify something here, because I see a fair amount of questions coming up on the right that are similar. So when we talk about proof of deposits, I understand that we need 3 months of a proof of income for the deposits that you are counting as your passive or your employment, and that could go into your American bank account. It doesn't have to be going into a Portuguese, but you have to show. So if, like right now today, you just got a job today, you would have to wait until you had 3 months of verifiable deposits in your bank account to show that as your income for the D8. And that's, I think what we're seeing here on a lot of these questions is the proof of the physical deposits for the monthly income, either passive or earned, and how many months do they have to show of that passive or monthly minimum. And I understand it to be 3 months of consecutive deposits into their American account.
Yes, but I think also for a D7 visa, it depends on the income that the person wants to provide, right? Because if the income, if the passive income comes from rentals, then then it could be 3 last invoices, right? But when it comes from interest and it's an annual interest, then it's a little bit different. So it's very each case it's a case, right? So it's
very simple, because I think I'm looking at a lot of these questions here to just simplify this one question. If you get Social Security, a pension in the United States, a pension, Social Security, something like that, 3 months of those deposits. So if you just turned the age to take your Social Security, but you've never taken it, you need 3 months. You can't apply with just the letter that says you're getting it. You have to have received it. So I think we're getting a lot of those questions. So I thought, is there anything else around that? But it's the 3-month rule that you're getting the money and you can prove that.
Just to make it more clear, when you are applying for a D7, you will need to prove 2 different things. One is the passive income, the regular passive income. So then you need to prove from the past 3 months you have been receiving passive income, and that you will still receive it for the next year at least, and that you have in Portugal a bank account with a year of minimum wage in that bank account.
Yes, perfect. All right, we're going to jump here. So Sherry's asking, if my family is coming over on my D7 visa, do they have to arrive at the same time as me, or can they arrive later?
When you're going through a visa process, if you're applying as a family, then your process will run together. So you will get the visa together, and you will have the visa is valid for 120 days. You come to Portugal and you exchange the visa for a residence permit. So within this 120 days of the visa, you can come first and your family can come later, as long as it's within this 4 months. If your family can't apply everyone together, then they need to make their own applications and not as your accompanying member family.
So we do have a time frame that they have to come to Portugal.
They can enter, yeah.
But they don't have to fly on the same planes, but they have to be within that time frame.
Exactly.
Absolutely, great. So Jennifer is asking, how many hours does the program need to be to qualify for a student visa? 4 hours per day, 1,000 hours? Is there an hour requirement?
It's a year requirement, more than a year, not by hour.
Okay.
It has to be a year program.
Perfect. All right. And Chris and Craig are asking, should we come 6 to 8 months earlier than expecting to live in Portugal to set up a bank account, acquire a lease, etc.? Can we come on quote unquote vacation and apply, fill out the forms, and then wait there in Portugal for approval of the visa? That would be great, Chris, if we could do that, but that's not how the process works. That's one of the reasons Portugal, the place, has been established, is because it's a little cart and horse. It feels weird. Okay, it does. You have to do things that get you established in Portugal before you know if you can live in Portugal. So it feels out of order. But you have a minimum amount of time you can be in Portugal based on a tourist visa. You have a 90 days is the tourist visa that allows you to come for 3 months. Many folks will come over and they will spend a couple weeks and do some scouting. They might come over and do some minimum paperwork in person, but there's steps that you need to do. So you can do everything remotely from the United States for things to get started. Like you can get a NEEF, we can do, a variety of things to get you going. But what you've described here is not an option. You can't stay here for a long period of time, like on vacation, and really get everything done and then fill out the paperwork and just be ready to go. Because again, it's a little opposite. So for the lease, for example, the best thing to do is for you to start scouting for that lease about 6 to 8 weeks before your visa appointment, because you will need to budget into your plan for moving the cost of having this monthly expense plus the utilities, because once that lease is signed, it is your responsibility. You will have that monthly amount coming out every month, and the utilities. They'll expect you to change the electricity, water into your name. And a lot of folks ask, well, can't we rent it now and then just pay later? There's no incentive for a landlord to rent to you today and then not receive any money for like 4 months, because they could rent it to someone else that could move in right away. So it's important to understand, most likely your property will sit vacant for some months before you're able to physically move here. So there's a strategy to the order of when we do things. Like, you don't want to do the paperwork for the FBI background check too soon because they expire. So there's certain things we really have to work with you on the timeline to make sure everything's lined up and we minimize the financial impact, but also make sure that we're aligned with the requirements for the visa. So Terry's asking, with the backlog at IMA, how does the expired visa situation that was asked previously, how does that was asked previously, does the 90-day Schengen rule have an impact? I think, Terry, if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying if you haven't received your residency card yet and you're in limbo, you're in between the temporary visa travel permit that you get issued and the residency card. If I'm reading this, you're asking, how could you travel to the rest of the Schengen region? And I'll toss that over to Carol. You want to jump in on how that kind of works for folks, because they're in purgatory. So.
You're in purgatory. It's actually what happens, because you're not illegal in Portugal, you're not irregular in Portugal, but for the other Schengen areas, they can understand that you are irregular. So that's why we always say that you have to be cautious when you're traveling outside of Portugal when your visa is expired, because then if you have to go somewhere, it's advisable to have a letter explaining the situation in Portugal, what's happening, why you don't have your residence permit yet, or why you don't have an appointment yet, because the law that says that you're legal, it's the Portuguese law, not the other European countries' law. So right. You must be careful.
And that's what we explain to a lot of folks, is when you're even flying, if you have to go home to the United States for some reason, you can fly out of Portugal and go back to the United States. If you need to come back to Portugal, which you do if you're applying for the visa, you come straight back into Portugal. That's one thing. You're going to be able to show you what your process, and if you're expired, it could still be an issue, but you'll have the ability to explain what's going on, and the Portuguese government knows that there's a backlog. If you make a connection, for example, through Amsterdam, KLM, you will have a problem because that government doesn't have any understanding. All they are seeing is you've overstayed your tourist visa. So it's very important to understand strategically, if you do need to leave the country, what that means and what you'll be dealing with. So it's really tricky. You need to plan on not making big commitments for trips and things like that until you've passed that second step. Exactly. All right. Chris is asking, do we need a fiscal representative to get a NIF, open a bank account, and or sign a rental lease? Carol?
You need the fiscal representative to get the NIF, because any person who doesn't have a European address, if you don't have a Portuguese residency, then your NIF will need a fiscal representative. And in order to open a bank account and to sign a rental lease, you need the NIF. So you need a fiscal representative.
Yes. All right. And Marissa and Michael are asking, what is the first step for a move to Portugal? Well, that's a tricky question, and I'm going to kind of go first, because there's a lot of first steps depending on where you are when you're considering moving abroad in general. If you've never been to Portugal before and you're considering Portugal as a possibility, then a first step is to discover if it's right for you. What does that mean? What is the country? There's pros and cons. There's no perfect place in the world. Preparing and educating yourself on all of the elements for your specific life. Do you have children? Are you retiring? I mean, there's so many elements that could affect the first step. But if you've decided and you've already been to Portugal and you've cleared all that out and you're like, yes, I want to move to Portugal, the very, very first step, you really just, Carol just nailed it on the head. You can't do anything without the NIF. The NIF is like the beginning of everything. And so if you want to feel like you put your toe in the water and you've just started the process, getting that NIF is a big step because everything else kind of lines up after that. But that is the very first piece of the puzzle and establishes you kind of in the system in Portugal.
Yes, I would say that the first step could be booking a flight and coming here for a vacation, right?
So many different things. If you've already, there's two sets of people on this whole webinar right now, and I can see the questions. There's the folks that are just now thinking possibility and haven't moved into like the reality part. And then there's the folks that are deep in and they're like ready to do the next step and the next step. So if you're way early in the possibility, then education, exploring and understanding the culture that you'd be considering, how Portugal has so much to offer, but it also has challenges and there's things that are happening here that we need to be sensitive to and understand culturally how we impact Portugal as well. But if you're already deep in the process, you're ready to start moving physically to Portugal, then that NIF and working through the VFS checklist. And before you commit to anything financially, buying a home, renting a home, even before you commit to hiring someone like Portugal the Place or move in, check on the VFS checklist or on the consulate and make sure you meet the minimum requirements, because it's really important that you know that you definitely, for these visas, you're going to have financial requirements. You're going to have accommodation requirements, background checks. I get questions all the time. What qualifies? I got arrested 30 years ago for pot when I was a kid. Does that qualify? It's really important to go through your house, your financial house, your own information, and make sure you qualify. And that's a really good first place, and then move into the steps to get relocated.
And if you're in that research phase, our website has a blog there with great articles, because sometimes the articles can be not updated and you can get a bit confused. So it's a good source for you.
And that's absolute. So that's a great question. All right, what do we have here? So do I need to confirm my passive income on a regular basis, or is the confirmation required only at the time of application? Carol, wanna?
There are 3 moments when you will have to prove your passive income. Like Colleen already said, there are 2 stages during the visa process, which is the consulate stage, and then here in Portugal at the IMA biometrics appointment. During this first stage, when you're sending your documents to the consulate, you will need to prove your passive income. And then when you're in Portugal, you will have a meeting here. You will need to prove your passive income again. And then it will come the time for you to renew your card. The first card is valid for 2 years. The cards later are valid for 3. In those moments, you will also have to prove your passive income.
And just to build off of that, at the end of the 5 years, when you're moving into either applying for citizenship or applying for permanent residency, will they verify their income at that time as well?
Not necessarily passive income, but you will need to prove income.
Okay, perfect. All right. So Deborah's asking, is anyone else having trouble even just getting an account at VFS San Francisco? Oh, San Francisco. I just want to do a little rant right now. Like, why, when the United States has the largest population sitting on that west of the Mississippi, do they have 1 consulate? That's just my rant. I had a moment and I'll let it go now. It's like, are you guys seeing, we're seeing trouble with everyone trying to get into San Francisco. It's just a really frustrating process. How are you guys seeing the same thing?
I believe
for setting up the account, no, because we already have our accounts that we use. But I don't know if currently there's any kind of glitch on the website, which wouldn't be surprising.
I think for the
individual, the website sometimes has some issues.
Yes.
If they're not working with an immigration attorney or someone that's trying to help that has an account established, it's been really tough. A lot of folks have been struggling to even get to the point of having an account.
If you try, this is a little tip, if you try too much, if you try too many times during the day, it blocks you for a while.
Yeah, that's
so
for sure.
Take that into account. It's not just with you. The website does that with people.
Perfect. Thanks for the question, Deborah. Okay, so Trish is asking, as a senior, can I apply for a student visa instead of the D7 if I enroll in a language school? I'm thinking maybe a senior person. So we're talking, there's no age restriction to the student, correct? You could be in your 60s, 70s and decide to come and be a student?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
exactly.
Perfect. All right. So then what is typical timing from application to receipt of the D7 visa? Julia, let's have you jump in on that one.
So I understand the typical timing from application to receipt. So by the law, it's 60 days. So the Portuguese consulate has 60 days to issue the visa. It can take longer. And as I always say, since the beginning of this year, as there are much more people requesting the visas, right? So the consulates are a little bit more busy. It takes longer nowadays to get an appointment, and it may take longer to get the visa approved.
Yeah, I'm seeing 90 days, pretty common as the turnaround. We're preparing our folks to plan for 90 days as kind of a more realistic expectation. We're not seeing as many folks getting them back in 60 days as we did before. Yeah, definitely. All right. So Sherry's asking, I heard the reunification family visa is being stopped.
There are talks about changing the requirements for the reunification family visa, but right now it's just gossip, actually, because the law hasn't been submitted to the parliament yet. But the government is saying in some ways that they might change some things. We still don't know what. For now, family reunion is still something that it's legal it's foreseen at the law. And remember, family reunification is different from a company visa.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of questions coming up on the right side about the NIF, and I'm going to throw like 3 or 4 out. I think we can answer a lot of these. We've got questions. Does the NIF expire? Is it only good in Portugal? Or is it good all over Europe? Which is no, it's only applicable to Portugal. Mm-hmm. And then folks are saying, do you have to renew your NIF? Do you have to keep a fiscal representative for your NIF? What happens if you get your NIF and you never move to Portugal? So there's kind of a whole thread going on here with NIF questions. Do you think we can just kind of jump in there on what happens, let's say, if you get your NIF and then you don't move to Portugal for a couple of years or maybe never?
Yeah, I can say that having a NIF, requesting a NIF before even applying for a visa, the person does not become a tax resident in Portugal, because the NIF, our Portuguese tax ID, is being registered with the address of the country of origin, right? So it doesn't change anything. It can, once the person become a resident in Portugal and receives a residence permit, Portuguese residence permit, then yes, he or she is required to transfer the tax residency, which means updating the address to a Portuguese one. The tax ID, the number, will always stay the same, and it's no need to renew it.
But you do renew it if you haven't moved here yet. You have to renew your fiscal representative. So there is a little moment if you never move. Your NIF is there, but don't you have to, your fiscal
It's not a renewal. You were changing your tax residency.
Right. No,
because I'm talking while your address is the American or any other country address, you have a non-resident NIF. You have a tax number in Portugal, but you don't have any tax obligation.
Exactly.
What I'm talking about is if you stay in the United States for 2 or 3 years and you never move to Portugal, and you have a fiscal representative, that fiscal representative will have to renew their representation of you in that, because some companies that do NIFs will send out a
yes,
it's like an annual fee normally. That's
it depends on who's your tax representative. If you hired a company, if there's someone that is providing that as a service for you, then usually you have to renew the service, not the NIF.
Right, not the NIF, it's the service. So I just wanted, that's because that does come up. People will pay for a company to have the service, and then it's the NIF is always the NIF. It's the service representative.
Yes.
And
Okay.
the tax representative, as the tax representative, can ask to cancel the NIF.
Yes. All right. Okay, so now we have, so basically prove your monthly remote income of minimum wage ×4 and accommodation proof, but not having to pay in minimum wage for 1 year in your account, but it's advisable to leave savings in your account, but not up to 1 year minimum wage fee, right?
I'll read it again.
I know. It's like that was.
Yes, I would say yes. It's what
Yeah.
we were talking about, the D8 visa.
Accommodation
Yes.
proof.
But
Yes.
we highly recommend not to run the bare minimum for your visa applications. For our clients, when we talk to them, if you can fund your Portuguese bank account, have your bank account, show some money, you're going to have a more robust application. But if you're just doing the very bare minimum, that's just something to be aware of. So, and plus, if you have accommodation in Portugal, you need a bank account, because we have to set up remote payments for your utilities. A lot of people forget about that. We can't do auto withdrawals from your American accounts. So we need a Portuguese bank account when you have your electricity and your water. You've got to pay for these things when you're not here. So it's really advisable to do it all and have it all set up so that you're ready to go and you look really committed, because that's what they're looking for, the commitment that you really do want to move to Portugal.
But I think this person is speaking specifically about the digital nomad visa.
Yes.
Yes,
In
and
that case,
speaking specifically about the digital nomad, saying that it's just good to look. It's good to make sure that you're prepared. A digital nomad, even though you don't have to have the bank account, you really still need a bank account.
While you're applying for the visa and you're not in Portugal, this is the minimum that it's this is what's advisable as the minimum. But I mean, you're going to live in Portugal, so you will need to have money here and some savings here, as you said.
And your life will be very complicated trying to get a lease and all that if you don't have your bank account. So it's definitely important. All right, so let's see. Will we be subject to taxation in both the US and Portugal? Oh, yes. Yes, lucky us. I will take that as the American here, because yes, they love us. As an American, no matter where you live in the world, you will be taxed on citizenship, not residency. So you will be needing to prepare for the fact that your income will be taxed by the American government wherever you live. And there are ways to work within the system and make sure that you're taking advantage of dual taxation treaties, to make sure you're taking advantage of exceptions and deductions. But absolutely, yes, you pay your taxes in Portugal first. You do your taxes in Portugal first, and then you do your taxes in the United States. They have different tax filing dates because they know that if you live abroad that you have a different schedule, but you are absolutely required to pay taxes in both countries. Okay, Trish is asking, when applying together for D7, does your partner qualify with an accompanying visa the same as a spouse? Are you saying an unmarried partner? I'm thinking there's no legal status between. So Carol, do you want to take if there's not a legal status between two people?
In Portugal, for the partner to be seen as a married couple, you need to be together for at least 2 years, and you have to have documents that prove that you've been together for 2 years. Documents that are legal documents, like a lease agreement, a joint bank account, trust fund, something like that. Just pictures and WhatsApp messages, there are not enough. Okay. It has to be something that shows that your bureaucracy somehow is being processed together.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. All right. And Chris is saying, do I deposit money into my new bank account by cashier's check or wire transfer? Yeah, they're not going to have a cashier's check on that. And Liesel is asking, can you pull passive income from savings? That's what Julia was answering earlier. It's really important to understand that you will need to show like your interest, your dividends, the interest, that annual income that you're earning off the savings. The savings alone isn't sufficient.
Yes, exactly.
And can we partner with your company to aid work visa to Portugal? We're all good with partners right now, but thank you so much. We don't handle Portugal. The place, for example, doesn't handle work visas. We are not an employment agency on that side. So the specific D3 work visas we're not involved with. And moviinn, do you handle those visas?
We don't provide or do recruitment or employment. We assist when the person already has an employment, a letter of invitation or a work already in Portugal, then we start assisting the person.
Perfect. All right. And Chloe, do I need to learn to speak Portuguese for either a D7 or a D8 visa? Not at the beginning. And I'm only sighing because I'm learning Portuguese and I'm like, wow, it's definitely a process for sure. You don't need it at the beginning, but when you want to apply for permanent residency or for citizenship, you will need an A1, A2 certification or take the sitting exam, language exam.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And does travel health insurance cover the requirement needed for application? How long after living there will we be eligible for buying using your Portuguese healthcare system? The travel insurance, it has to be a specific insurance that's for the visa. It's not just your normal travel cancellation insurance. You need a specific insurance that has a visa letter that shows that it's set up to cover the gap. Imagine that it's the gap while and before you can get on the healthcare system. And then the healthcare system, once you become a resident, we have all the rights and privileges of a citizen of Portugal, including the health system. But you are expected to have private health insurance as we haven't paid into it. So the expectation is you will purchase private health insurance for your coverage. And Carol and Julia, if you want to jump in on anything there, but that's the process.
That's the process, yeah. In order to be able to have a family doctor, the public health care, right? It's necessary to have a residence permit. So only with a residence permit we can start using the public health care.
But you can get private health insurance right away. You can start the process as soon as you have an address in Portugal and you're able to jump in. The private health insurance you can purchase and start even while you're in purgatory. So,
but you need the NIF.
Yes, you need a NIF. Nothing can happen without the NIF. So the NIF is required. All right. Okay. And Tamara's asking, I may have missed this. What is the approximate time frame from application submission at the consulate, Mexico City, to receiving the residency card in Portugal for the D7 visa? How's Mexico City going?
I don't know, but I handle many consulates. I don't remember what's the availability right now, but after the appointments, the timeline is the same, 60 legal days. Sometimes it can be a bit more to then come to Portugal, but usually within a month or two for the appointments.
Perfect. All right. And for the D7, if using a rental property to count for the annuity, is the rental income considered net any expenses like paying a monthly HOA fee, or is it the same gross amount of the rental income?
Sorry, I'm reading again.
Yes,
gross amount.
It's the gross amount. So they're not deducting the expected expenses you have for upkeep.
Because they will ask, what they will ask to see is the document that shows the contract, the rental contract, and then your bank account.
So if it's $1,000 a month that the contract states and you get $1,000 a month in your bank account, that's sufficient. Even if they have to pay $400 for HOA fees or something, that's considered. Okay, perfect. Jennifer is asking, can you come on a student visa and take the classes online?
As long as the Portuguese school, but I assume that if you're coming to Portugal, you're going to a Portuguese school, you might as well go to an in-person class.
But it's possible if it's offering like a hybrid.
As long as it's Portuguese.
Okay, perfect. All right. And then Brooke is asking, I've heard that the San Francisco visa office is tougher, perhaps stricter than the other US visa offices. Any insight on this? Thanks. I know, Brooke, it feels like it. I do have to say San Francisco feels like it. I don't know if it's more just like an urban myth, but it does feel like our clients get put through more in San Francisco than...
I do feel that Houston is worse.
Really? Is Houston starting to feel worse? I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not sure. It's like,
As long as you go prepared, even if they try to ask for more things, you will be prepared and you will go through it.
that's what I often say. Like, just, it's just a printer and some paper. Take the extra stuff. And sometimes people are like, well, it's not on the checklist. For example, it doesn't require tax returns, but print the front pages and backs of your tax returns. Have extra paperwork there, because if they do want to see some supporting documents, it's really nice to be like, sure, here you go, as opposed to having to be like, I don't have that, let me download it, that kind of thing. All right, so Olivia is saying, what are some less expensive cities and towns within 30 minutes of Lisbon where people could look for apartments? Well, less expensive is a little relative, and within 30 minutes of Lisbon is still Lisbon, so it's kind of tough. But for example, Torres Vedras and Mafra are north of Lisboa, and they are just enough away that you sometimes will see a slight difference in the price points for rentals. If you are looking down by Palmela in Stubble and you go about 45 minutes south, kind of south, outside of Lisboa, you might find some prices that are reasonable. But what's happening, and it's similar to around the world, is if you are within the space of Lisbon and you can reasonably get to Lisbon, the prices reflect that. So it's something to be prepared for. It's not, of course, as expensive as like the center, Saldana or something like that. But even just spreading out 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you can feel the impact of the accessibility to Lisbon. If you move north up the Silver Coast to Caldas de Reina, you're at about 45 minutes outside of Lisbon, and you'll see a significant drop in like some of the properties. But even towns like this now, Bombarral, Caraval, all of these places, you're feeling the push. You're feeling the fact that people are trying to get out of the center. So the prices are not as low going out as they used to be. All right, Paul, as Christy mentioned at 6:21, how do I make it better? How do I make it a better sell to my company that there are no tax implications for the business? I'm a self-employed contractor. Well, that's the self-employed part where they do the tax, correct, Carol? If they are a W-9 employee in the United States and they're responsible for the taxes, it doesn't impact the employer.
No. The digital nomad visa in Portugal doesn't imply in any responsibility for the employer ever.
The only thing that I hear occasionally, maybe we can expand on this for just a moment, is sometimes companies are concerned about having a contracted W-2 employee working outside of their country of region, more to do with HR and their ability to process things like paying them through their HR systems and tracking like the vacation days and things like that. So I think that comes up quite a bit. So does an American employer have to comply to Portuguese vacation day requirements, holidays? So does it impact them on that?
Because when you come in with a digital nomad visa, you're still employed by an employer at the United States. So they will still paying you at your American account. And then you make the transfers that you want. You make the taxes, the taxes plan that you need to come to have your money in Portugal. What you might need in the future, and there has been conversations, is paying for Social Security in Portugal too, but that will be a responsibility of the applicant, not the employer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And I think Paul was saying that he was based in the UK, not the USA. So I just wanted to catch that Paul was the last person that we just had the question for. Yeah, Paul, who we're talking about the company, they're based in the UK, not the USA. So that applies the same for the UK,
Same.
correct? Okay, perfect. All right. And then Tabitha is asking, what about grown siblings? Can they be a dependent?
No.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Unless they have health issues and they are you're acting as the legal representative, which is always an exception, but by rule, siblings are not family members.
And that's the
in
same
that sense.
Grown children too. Grown children.
Same.
are the same unless you are caring for them and you are the legal
Yeah.
care. All right. All right. And then for the D8 visa, you just prove your 3 months active income and not 1 year equivalent in your Portuguese bank account like the D7 visa.
So it's again, right? We've talked about it already.
Right.
Same thing.
Yes.
You prove 3 months of salary or income, or whatever active income that you have, but it's good to have a Portuguese bank account.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Terry. And then Chris is asking, what is the charge to hire a move-in in Portugal, the place? So Chris and Craig, we'd love to schedule a call with you. It depends on the service that you require. So we have different packages if you decide to purchase a home, for example, or if you're looking to rent. And then move-in has different packages depending on what you're doing as well. But this is a great question to have here because we're already at 7 o'clock. Oh my gosh, that just went by like so fast.
It's really fast, yeah.
You can email us at Portugal the Place. You can go in and request introductions. We can get you over to the team at Move In. We'd love to talk with you if you have more questions about your specific situation. We're happy to answer any questions. Schedule a meeting. We are really here to support you in this process and give you some very clear and real support on what it's going to take to move to Portugal. The process does feel overwhelming sometimes. It's normal, but once you kind of get it in an order in your head, we can make it all go step by step. So if you go to portugaltheplace.com, you can go in and you can schedule a call. You can email us. We'd love to talk to you. Carol and Julia, I hope you had fun.
Thank you all.
That was a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you very much.
Fast.
But you guys were great. And again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And the team here is so appreciative of all of your questions. And we look forward to hearing from you and have a fantastic day. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you.